Greetings, my name is Rudimentar Rob. Welcome back to my Hardcore Valheim series. Today we're going to work on a bit of a plan. I've done a little bit of grinding between the previous episode and this episode just to try and get a little bit more gear going, just so I can run around a little bit more safely, and also so that I can further expand on what I've been doing and bring you guys into the loop. So, long story short, our bottleneck is bone fragments, and as you can see, we only had the one sitting there in a chest. We are going alright on food, we are going okay on leather. Wood is obviously not an issue. Stone, look, I could do with a lot more stone because I am working on this base to try and expand it, and I've been sort of raising walls, you know, progressively further out just to annex some more land. Now, as you will recall in our previous episodes, we've explored quite a lot, most particularly just attempted to circumnavigate this island. We didn't completely succeed, but we've got enough of the island looped to know with some certainty the amount of land that we have to work with. Now, the other thing in my offline explorations, I've established that our meadows area, it's okay, it's a little disjointed, but it's not huge. We are going to struggle to come across enough, bits and pieces on this amount of meadows in, I'll say, a short time frame. So, I've got some more plans afoot, which I'll brief you on in the next episode. But for the moment, for this episode, I'm looking at essentially filling in some of the blanks that we've got for the meadows, more particularly the outside edges of it. In the more lackluster gear that I had when I was basically just running around in pants and a shirt, I was a bit reticent to get too close to the outside edge of meadows because pretty much anything that I would have aggroed from the Black Forest, and you can tell it's a Sunday and my sleep was not amazing, so we're forgetting words already, but I wanted to stay away from the Black Forest as much as I could. Now, with modest gear, I can actually deal with the regular blue eye great orbs with not too much trouble, not the least of which because I can always switch to a torch to make them run away. So the great orbs are less of a concern than skeletons. But then, I don't need grey dwarves at the moment. In fact, my demand for grey dwarves is not going to be very high for quite a while, simply because in a normal playthrough, yes, I need a lot of grey dwarf eyes for portals. Well, we're not going to be making any portals, are we? So the need for grey dwarf eyes is not going to reach any sort of level of demand until we get to the point where we can make eyes cream, and that's a little way down the track. So for the moment, grey dwarves serve really nothing more than an absolute irritation at the moment in terms of when I have to kill them or run away from them. So we're trying to avoid them as much as we can, but in this episode we are going to have to dodge a few. Minor spoiler, but we do manage to not have to fight any. But we did have a couple of choice encounters where there was a potential to aggro them, but I managed to sneaky away. See, there's a few over there on the hill. I managed to run away, and because it was daytime, they didn't really follow me. During the day, they don't seem to like to stay in the meadows. If I lose aggro on them, they do tend to go back to the Black Forest. During the night, though, I can't promise that that would be the case, which is why a lot of my explorations around the very outside edge of meadows is only during the day. So, this is part one of our strategy here for this episode. we're trying to maximize how much meadows we have to work with so that we can, well, get a more fine-tuned plan for how to come about the all the extra bone fragments that we're going to need. Now, this is another instance where I'm pretty sure there was some grey dwarves there. I think they're just down in that area because something can see me. And it's not a skeleton because I didn't hear any skelly noises. And it wasn't another little yellow eye one, although we do aggro one. He's over here, but he was too far away to see me. So somewhere in amongst those trees there somewhere, there was at least one grey dwarf, and I think... Oh, actually, maybe... Oh, there you go. You can see the big boys just coming up and over the hill there. So they are trying to follow me into the meadows, but I'm managing to lose aggro on them. So it wasn't really... Like, if I'd done that any worse than what I did it, I would say I probably have to fight them. But we managed to stay away from them, and we managed to lose aggro on them in the end. So, yeah, all good. Now, to the north here, north and north, what are we? Northwest, yes. To the north and northwest here, we had pretty much got as deeply into, you know, the edge of the meadows and the Black Forest there. We got as far as we could with our previous explorations, with the exception of this bit that I'm going to start working my way towards now. I think this might have been where during the live stream we ended up dying a couple of times, so we never pushed it. Well, this is me pushing it. Now, the reason why I've come in this close is there's a stone, little, you know, Stonehenge-y thing there, and I was coming in to get the bone fragments. However, and you might have a bit of trouble seeing this in the video, but there is a grey dwarf tower, like, it feels like about 3 feet away from it, and there was just absolutely no guarantee that I was going to be able to get into the little Stonehenge-y thing to get the bone fragments without being spotted, and with the grey dwarves that close, it's just a risk I wasn't prepared to take. So there's a bit of that risk management that we've you know, spent lots of time trying to get in place. Well, congratulations, I managed to actually use a bit of it. Now, we're essentially part 2 of our mission, which is what we're into now, is we're going to go around we're going to locate and visit every single one of these Stonehenge things that's in the meadows area that we've got access to, and we're going to mark them on the map, because I've managed to work out that even though we're looting the bone fragments from these, and my previous belief was that removing the bone fragments prevented spawns. Yeah, it doesn't, apparently. There is still a random chance that a skelly can spawn at those stones at night, and that was something I'd honestly never really bothered to fully research previously. And even at this moment, I hadn't really done any research. This is just based on pure experience, and I'm going to confirm that very readily a bit later in this episode. So, what we're doing here, and we're going to start doing a bit of this during this episode as well, is we're going to set up regular rest huts around the meadows area. Simply because it gives us somewhere with a bit of comfort where we can go, we can get a rested buff and not have to run half the meadows to get it. So that's mission 1. Mission 2 is if things get a bit hairy, it gives me somewhere where I can sleep the night out potentially. And so that is exactly what we're trying to do here. We're just doing a bit of manic last minute building, as we want to do these days. And we've just turned the old sort of wreck of a building that was here into a reasonably safe rest area. And we're going to develop this a bit more in coming episodes, but for now, we've got a fire, we're going to make sure it's undercover, and that's pretty much it. That's all we really need to worry about with this. Now, we're going to do a little tidy up here, and we're going to duck inside, and we're going to get our rested buff because it's just gone night time. Now, we've got our rested buff. I've done my usual... Actually, we're getting it now, sorry. I've done my usual adjustment to try and bring the light levels up. Again, it looks like garbage in my editor, but the last time I said that, it did actually turn out okay on YouTube, so fingers crossed this ends up being the same way. We are doing our risk management plan, which is any time we're going out to do something that potentially has any amount of risk involved, we are leaving everything we can behind. We're doing a full repair, and we are... What are we doing? Oh, I was looking at whether or not I could make some more arrows, but I can't. What did draw my attention, though, is I saw some damage numbers ticking away, and I was worried that the structure was on fire, but it's... I'm not sure what it's doing. There might be a little bit of wood or something in the ground there left over from the old building, but it's burning that and the grass, and it's not really doing anything to my structure, so yeah, I can call off the search on that one. It's all good. Now, where we're going now is we are going to revisit that Skelly ruin that we were at moments before. And we're going to test it to see if, even though we just removed the bone fragments, we're going to test it to see if we can get a Skelly spawn there. And in this gear, one-on-one, I think I've got a reasonably good chance of dealing with a Skelly, particularly since we're outside and, you know, we're going to be able to run away and do all sorts of other stuff if we need to. Now, we're sneaky up to the ruin, and sure enough, I don't know if you can see it, but there is actually a Skelly there. Now, my arrow missed him, which was kind of annoying, because I was relying on getting a solid initial hit on the Skelly, because the arrows don't hit very hard. Now, he did knock me off balance twice, so I just went into, yep, we need to get out of here mode. And I thought, how am I going to deal with this? Because I can't really run and use a bow, because they both drain stamina pretty hard when you're... I mean, even when you got decent skills, they drain stamina pretty hard. So I waited to get a bit of my stamina back, and I wanted to try and climb up on one of these rocks, but that was not a suitable candidate. I'm a bit worried that this one might not be high enough, but yeah, that's okay. He's not taking a swing at us, so that's fine. But the problem is they don't hang around. The minute you sort of jump up on a rock or anything like that, they will usually just run off once you do some damage. However, he is pretty low on health. I mean, my health isn't looking particularly spectacular, but we need to chase after him, because we're not going to spend all this effort to try and 3/4 damage a Skelly that's just going to despawn the minute the sun comes up. No, we wanted to finish him off. And we've been able to do that, and we got our 2 bone fragments. So we have now confirmed our understanding of how these Skelly ruins work. They don't have to have bone fragments at them. They are just capable of having a skeleton spawn there regardless. So, with that bit of good news out of the way, we're going to do a bit more of an unload here. Oh, actually, no we're not. We're going to pick up some stuff, and we're going to move on. And we're going to see if we can... Well, we're going to sleep the night out as well, but we're going to see if we can move on and see if there are any other Skelly ruins that A... there's still some bone fragments at, or B, might be able to be a suitable location for us to have a skeleton, you know, fight at. Because we want to be fighting at somewhere where, you know, we can jump up on a rock or whatever and be safe. For the moment, we're just going to mark them all out on the map, and then we'll work out which ones we might try and reuse later. Now, in amongst all me running around and my epically long spiel, I've just realised I'm still talking since the start of the episode, so yep, anyone who hasn't fallen asleep yet, thank you. Anyone that wants to fall asleep, hey, look, that's fine. But back to the topic at hand. We're back into build mode here. Again, it's the whole, we want multiple rest areas around our meadows area that we can go to, and we can routinely stock up on our rested buff and have somewhere safe, in an emergency. We can jump in here and, recover a bit of health or whatever we need to do. So we're going to get a few of these around the place. And this is number one of God knows how many of them that we're going to end up with. The usual mandatory requirements. Whenever I've got leather on me, I usually throw a deer rug down. It's a bed, it's a chest or two, it's a workbench, and a roof over my head, and then a fire that I usually try and get under cover outside. And that's it. That's all it needs to be. You don't get much of a rested buff out of that, but something is better than nothing at all. Anyway, I think that's enough of a spiel for now. I'm going to let you absorb my, I'm going to say, unconventional building methods. I'm still perfecting my whole how to build when, to cover a fire when a fire wants to destroy your building at the same time. This current iteration is about as, thought out as I've managed so far. It seems to be far enough away from anything that's wood that it hasn't set anything on fire yet, so I'll just take that as a win, and we'll move on from there. Anyway, as I was saying, I was going to stop ranting, and I was going to let you return to the action to see what other interesting things we can find. Now, there does appear to be a couple of these little skelly ruins, all sort of, I would like to say close together. They're within a respectable run of each other, all sort of in this general area. So I think any of my future nighttime activities in regard to locating and destroying skeletons, it's all going to happen in that same general area of my meadows. That said, though, from later discoveries, I don't think this really qualifies as a spoiler per se, but I've sort of come to discover that the skelly ruins, if they spawned a skelly every night, they would be a lot more useful than what they are. Let's just put it that way. The spawn rate of them is not very high at all. I haven't pinned it down yet, but in my random wanderings, I did revisit the same ruins over several nights, and I did make sure I was far enough away from it to not prevent, spawn by proximity or anything like that. And I'm going to say at least 3 nights So night 1 was the skelly spawn. So night 3 or night 4, I still didn't have a respawn of the skelly. So I don't know how well this plan is actually going to play out long term. I don't know that I've got enough things that I want to be doing over that sort of time frame, given the volume of bone fragments that I'm actually going to need. I'm starting, at this point, I'm starting to stray towards the belief that I need to find some more meadows somewhere. And there'll be more on that in the next episode, but I'm starting to realise that this meadows, with all the bits and pieces that we inevitably lost, and I lost over the preceding episodes, we've kind of dug ourselves a bit of a hole. And it might take a little bit of grinding to get us out of that hole, but I'm definitely coming up with a plan to do that as efficiently as possible without adding to the problem. So yeah. Anyway, this is me on night 2, essentially coming back up through this sort of forested area, revisiting these skelly ruins. Now, none of these had fragments at them on the way down. So on the way back, I'm sort of thinking, yeah, okay, we might have a skeleton, we might not. So I'm taking all the precautions, I'm looking around. There's a few times I'm sneaking along and my sneak is getting skill ups, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, there's a skeleton here finally. But no, it was just a couple of deer or a neck or things like that. In the end, I took the hint, I stopped sneaking around, and I just ran for the last one. And sure enough, there was no skelly at that one either. So I'm not even sure that all of these are actually capable of having a skeleton spawn at them. Maybe there's only, one out of. Maybe there's some aspect to it that make it that it can or cannot have a skeleton spawning at it. I don't know. I haven't really sort of nutted out that aspect of it just yet. We're still working on the science side of it. Yeah. Anyway, we'll keep going. Any little discoveries I make, I'll certainly share them as part of my videos. But to finish our run for this particular night, we've returned to the scene of the crime. We've come back to this original skelly one where our plan worked the first time. And yep, there is definitely no skeleton there. He would be seeing me by now, and he's not there. So, yep, this is pretty much the point where I realized, Houston, we've got a problem. Alright, we've returned down to this hut here just to grab a few of the odds and ends out here. I'm leaving a little bit of meat behind just in case I end up down here and I need a meal. I mean, we've got a fire and it doesn't take much wood to make a little cooking rack for it, so I'm leaving a little bit of meat around just in case. Resin, don't care. A little bit of food and a spare building hammer, yeah, that might be useful. Now, speaking of useful things, we've reached the end of the episode. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and to consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Until next time, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure you have yourself an absolutely fantastic day.